Imagine, just for a second, that you're boarding a plane. You settle into your seat, you look out the window, and the weather is perfectly clear. The pilots have run all their checks, and every single instrument is working exactly as it should. Everything seems completely, reassuringly normal. You are embarking on a totally routine journey over the Atlantic Ocean. Until then, the normalcy just shatters. Without any warning at all, the radio communications start to crackle and then totally fail, leaving you completely isolated up in the sky. Up in the cockpit, the pilots are staring in absolute disbelief. Why? Because the compass is spinning wildly, completely untethered from magnetic north. The very navigational instruments you rely on to guide your safe passage have just inexplicably died. And moments later, you vanish. There is no frantic distress call. There is absolutely zero wreckage left behind. And honestly, the most terrifying part of all, there is zero explanation. Just empty air and rolling ocean waves. Welcome to this explainer on one of the world's most enduring and frankly terrifying unsolved mysteries. We're looking at a region surrounded by deep-sea legends, wild conspiracies, and literal decades of unanswered questions. Today, we're putting on our investigator hats to look at the evidence and ask, what is actually happening out there? Okay, to kick off our investigation, we need to establish the boundaries of our crime scene. The Bermuda Triangle is this massive zone in the Atlantic Ocean, and it's basically anchored by three distinct points: Miami, Florida, the island of Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. You connect these dots and they form a colossal triangle of open water. Now, for decades, stories have circulated about ships and aircraft just mysteriously disappearing right inside these lines. I mean, legends claim hundreds of people have vanished here, completely swallowed by the sea, which has led a lot of folks to believe that something supernatural is at play. Part 1. December 5th, 1945. The mystery explodes. So, picture this. It's December 5th, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy bombers take off from Florida for a totally routine training exercise. At 0 hours, the weather is fine, totally normal. But as the hours tick by, these chilling radio messages start arriving back at the base. The flight leader reports that his compass is malfunctioning. Soon confusion spreads. As their fuel drops, their desperate transmissions suggest these 5 aircraft are just hopelessly lost. And then, complete silence. All 5 planes completely disappear. But the tragedy absolutely did not end with that radio silence. Almost immediately, a rescue aircraft was sent out over the ocean to search for the missing men. And in an incredibly cruel twist of fate, that rescue aircraft also disappeared. Which brings us to a really staggering human cost. 27 people vanished that day. 27 lives lost without a single trace. Because despite massive search efforts, not one piece of confirmed wreckage from any of those 6 aircraft has ever been recovered. It became, and it still remains, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in aviation history. You can imagine, following the absolute shock of Flight 19, reports of strange incidents started multiplying rapidly. More ships disappeared, more aircraft vanished. The stories spread like wildfire, basically turning the Bermuda Triangle into a global legend overnight. And as the fame grew, well, so did the theories, right? People started talking about alien activity, time portals, and even the lost city of Atlantis. But as investigators, we have to pause and ask ourselves, is there any actual evidence for this stuff? Part 2. The suspects. Investigating the theories. Let's look at our first major suspect, magnetic anomalies. Now, because so many stories, including Flight 19, involve severe navigation problems, a lot of people believe unusual magnetic activity messes with compasses out there. And hey, it sounds like a perfect scientific explanation. However, scientists actually note that these types of magnetic variations occur in many parts of the world. So they are a known geological phenomenon, sure, but they aren't uniquely isolated to this one specific region. Okay, moving on to our second major suspect, methane gas eruptions. This theory is wild. It suggests that massive pockets of methane gas, which are trapped right beneath the ocean floor, can just suddenly erupt. If a colossal bubble of this stuff rises to the surface, it drastically reduces the water's density. Basically, a ship passing directly over this eruption would instantly lose its buoyancy and just drop to the bottom of the ocean before anyone could even send out a distress signal. Now, it is scientifically possible, but we have to be clear here. Direct evidence connecting these eruptions to actual disappearances remains very, very limited. So, this leaves us looking at a pretty stark comparison. On one hand, we have mundane reality. Human error is a massive factor out on the water. Couple that with the extreme, unpredictable weather of the Atlantic Ocean, sudden storms, rogue waves, hurricanes, and a routine voyage can become deadly in a matter of minutes. On the other hand, we have the highly popular supernatural theories, aliens, UFOs, Atlantis. They make for great stories, but despite their massive popularity, there is simply no scientific evidence supporting them. Part 3. The statistical twist. Now, this is where things take a really unexpected turn in our investigation. When researchers actually sit down and crunch the numbers, a completely different truth emerges. Thousands of ships and aircraft pass through the Bermuda Triangle every single year, and the vast, overwhelming majority complete their journeys without a single hitch. In fact, when you compare the accident rates here to other heavily traveled parts of the ocean worldwide, the numbers are practically identical. The climax of our statistical investigation reveals a startling truth. The Bermuda Triangle is not statistically any more dangerous than many other heavily navigated places on Earth. So if the hard data says it isn't uniquely deadly, why does the legend survive so strongly? Well, it's because the unexplained is often way more powerful than the explained. The Bermuda Triangle phenomenon survives in our collective minds because it's this potent, captivating mixture of genuine human error, highly destructive weather, and compounding stories that just grew larger with every single retelling. Deep down, we desperately want to believe there is something more out there, something mysterious. Today, some believe science has entirely solved the mystery. Others remain firmly convinced that something deeply unusual is happening beneath those dark waters. But after reviewing the disappearances, the unyielding weather, the compass malfunctions, and the cold, hard statistics, I'm going to leave you with one final question. If you were offered a flight across the Bermuda Triangle tomorrow, knowing all the facts and all the legends, would you take it?